In this video, we will be learning about soil texture and how to determine soil texture by feel. So what is soil texture? Well, soil texture indicates the relative content of varying particle sizes. There are three main sizes of soil particles: sand, silt, and clay. Soil particle sizes are defined in ranges. The smallest of these three is clay. It is from 0.002 millimeters and smaller. The middle of these three is silt, which is from 0.002 to 0.05 millimeters. The largest of these three is sand, which is from 0.05 to 2.0 millimeters. Anything over 2.0 millimeters is called gravel or stone. So why is soil texture important to understand? Well, soil texture influences the ease with which soil can be worked. This is important to people who work with soil for a living, such as farmers or construction companies. It is also important to know the amount of water and air that soil can hold, as this is important for plants that need those things to grow. Soil texture can also influence the rate at which water can enter and move through the soil. This is very important during rain events that may cause flooding if water cannot enter the soil at an appropriate rate. There are a total of 12 major soil texture classifications as defined by the United States Department of Agriculture. You can see each of those textures in this soil texture triangle. So, how do they come up with these soil texture names? Well, the names of the soil texture are based on the percentages of each particle size. For example, sandy clay texture, there isn't much silt, and clay is the dominant particle since it is listed second. There's also a fourth term, loam, which is used to describe equal parts of sand, silt, and clay in a sample. You can see how the names relate to each other in the soil texture triangle. One way that we can determine soil texture is by feel. This is something you can easily do at home. You will need a soil sample, about 2 tablespoons worth, a spray bottle, or if you don't have a spray bottle, a cup will work as well. And you will need to fill it up with water. And you will need the texture by feel guide, which you can find at the link in the video description. You will also want to do this outside, or at least have something like a plate, because it can get a little messy. So first, we're going to follow this chart, and we're going to place 25 grams of soil in your palm. I would suggest using your non-dominant hand so that you can keep one hand clean. Now you are going to wet the soil and knead it until the consistency is like a moist putty. You want to break up all the aggregates in the soil, or chunks of soil. Next, we're going to squeeze the soil sample into a ball. Does it remain in a ball after it has been squeezed? In my case, yes, it does. Now we're going to take this ball and form a ribbon by placing it between my thumb and my forefinger and squeezing it upward until it breaks from its own weight. Does it form a ribbon? In this case, yes, it does. But the ribbon was less than 2.5 centimeters. So I followed down to the next box, which says to excessively wet a pinch of the soil and rub it between my forefinger and thumb. Now, it asks if it feels gritty. Not really. So I followed down the next arrow to the next box. It asks if it feels smooth. Not really in this case. So I follow that arrow to the box that says neither gritty nor smooth. And it leads me to the box that says this is a loam. This is my soil texture for this sample. Let's try another one. Placing the soil sample in my palm, I wet it down until it is a moist putty. Now, does it remain in a ball when I squeeze it? Not really. So I follow that over to the next box, which asks if it is too dry. It is not. But if it was, I would just add more water and start again. Following the no arrow, it asks if the soil sample is too wet. Mine is a little too wet. I'm going to add just a little bit more of my soil sample. And then I'm going to start again. Does it squeeze into a ball? Nope, still doesn't. So I follow that arrow over again and ask if it's too dry. No, it's not too dry. So I follow that arrow and it asks if it's too wet. It's okay now, it's not too wet. But if it was, I would add more of the sample and start again. Since my sample is not too wet and it's not too dry, I move to the next box and it says that texture of my sample is sand. Now let's try one more sample. So I place the sample in my palm and I wet it down. Working it around to break up all the aggregates. Now I squeeze it into a ball. It stays in a ball. Next, I can make my ribbon. So my ribbon was longer than 2.5 centimeters, but it was shorter than 5 centimeters. Now I excessively wet a small pinch and I rub it between my fingers. It feels gritty, which means that it is sandy clay loam. Now, this is a really good method for out in the field, but it does have its limitations. People can perceive things differently than other people. For example, a sample that feels gritty to me may not feel gritty to you. Keep this in mind when using this method. If you would like to learn a more accurate method of determining soil texture, check out our video called Soil Texture by Suspension. Thanks for watching!